Good morning to all. Myself Professor T.M. Divakar, working as Assistant Professor in Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering in Sharad Institute of Technology, College of Engineering, Yadra, Ichakanji. So, in the previous video, we studied about the bonded labors. So, today we are going to see the different case studies on bonded labors. So, let us come to the point of case studies. So, in the previous video actually we studied about the case study 1 also. So, let us revise the case study 1. So, case study 1 is related to Jayanti versus Sri Lakshmi modern rice mills. So, that is which is happened in Anantapur, Andhra Pradesh. So, let us see once again. So, what is the fact of the case is that after losing her husband to an illness, so Jayanti was forced to stay in as a bread earner for her 6 young children. So, with no education, work was hard to come by for her, and existence was at bare subsistence levels. So, Jayanti got by working as a casual laborer and as her sons became older. So, they took the pinched in. So, life was to take the nastier turn for Jayanti when her eldest child was to get married. Even the most shoestring wedding budget worked out to 10,000 money that Jayanti didn't have it. So, she also had no land or she had no any assets she could sell. So, anything of value she had was long gone. So, what is the working condition? So, Jayanti was made to work long hours under the inhuman conditions. She couldn't go home. Her wages were way below the minimum wage rate. She had to put up with the repeated sexual abuse by her employers. Jayanti, whose pitiful plight is narrated by the Bandiya in 1947, run by 5 organizations working in this space, is bonded labor, forced or partially forced labors governed by a debater or creditor agreement. So, this is the exploitation values by the industries. So, this is the exploitation value in 2011 in dollars already is given. So, what exploitation value is saying that the revenues minus operating cost into the months of enslavement minus cost of acquisitions. So, what is the role of modern days slavery's hub? So, it is supported by the Humanity United. So, let us come back to Anantapur, that is facilitator Albina Gid is helping to spread the world. She has had no negotiated with the community leaders, that is the mill owners, the village panchayat, that is the local governance body, and other influences people in the community to allow the listening and discussion process to take place. So people started endorsing the idea of listening to the program together and discussing the issues. So Jayanti was the one of those victims who was rescued by this ego NGO, sorry, out of this viscous circle of bondage when she failed to get any help from the government. So what the struggling initiates. So as it is difficult to reach the current victims directly, the listeners village helps community members to identify them and complementing the local initiatives focused on rescue and rehabilitations. So the story of struggle and success are gathered by reporters from the local community trained in bonded labors. So awareness, community engagements and using recording equipment. A 30-minute radio program title, that is Majboor Kisko Bola, that is who are you calling helpless, is then produced in your New Delhi office. So which containing the drama based on the stories gathered along with the expert interviews and folk musics. So each episode also contained the crucial informations on the government scheme and agencies and the targets bonded the laborers. And on the Bonded Labor Abolition Act, that is 1976, the migrations, safe migrations, tackling the method of rescue, minimum wages and how NGOs and the medias can help. So this is the disseminations is undertaken by the community facilitators who are identified as agents of change within their village by partner NGOs and are trained on group cohesions and conflict resolutions along with how to capture the results coming from the activities. The next one, the facilitators organizes their villages into the groups to listen to each episode, engage in discussion afterwards and act on the information they have heard. They ensure that at least half of households listen to each episode every week. So this is about the case study 1. Let us come to the case studies 2. So this case study is Jarpunit in Bapna Nagar area, Ahmedabad. So owned by Jia ul Liak Sheikh. So Jayantilal and company. Case study 2, Jayantilal and his company. So Jari unit in Bapunagar area, Ahmedabad, owned by Jia ul Haq Sheikh. So complaint in December 2001. So what is the fact of the state? A team of the state labor department raided a Jari unit and found the children working there. So 6 kids from Bihar as bonded laborers at a Jari unit. Sheikh was booked under the bonded labor system, that is the Abolition Act. So what is the complaint against the Sheikh? The child laborers were confined inside Sheikh's workplace and were made to do the Jari's work. The children were made to work without fixed working hours and were paid below the minimum wages. So, what is the working condition of the Jhari unit? So, no proper visibility, no proper ventilations, normal work day for 16 hours, very low wage rate, labor suffering from suffocation due to cloth dusts, suffering from eye problems and spinal disorders, no proper medical facilities available, proper drinking water not available. So, what is the court decisions? The case filed by prosecutions agencies was weak and no strong evidence or witnesses, and hence court gave decision in favor of Sheikh. So, reasons for failure of case in court is some glaring loopholes in the case prepared by the prosecuting agencies. Second one, the court acquitted Sheikh, giving him a benefit of doubt. Complainter officers was not authorized to lodge the complaint by the concerned higher authorities. No definite evidence was produced about the age and name of the child laborers. No statement of the victims were recorded and placed before the court during the trial. The presiding officers also criticized the prosecutions on the ground that it did not specify the wage given. The prosecutions could not even prove that the kids were working at the same Jhari unit. What is the final case conclusion in the Jhari units? In India, there are certain rules to avoid the child labor but are not implemented due to the following reasons. Number 1, poverty and unemployment, lack of awareness and lengthy court procedure. The next one is the Bhondia Mukti Morcha versus the Union of India. This is case study number 3. The case study number 3 is Bhondia Mukti Morcha versus Union of India. So, what is the fact of the case? In Bhondia Mukti Morcha versus Union of India, the main issue concerns the existence of bonded laborers in the Faridabad stones quarries near the city of Delhi. So, it was alleged that majority of the workers were compelled to migrate from other states and turned into the bonded laborers. The workers were living in subhuman and miserable conditions. A violation of various labor laws and the bonded labor system, that is the Abolition Act in 1976, was annulled. This is the fact of the case study. So, these are the bonded laborers which is working in Bhondia Mukti Morcha. The legal rulings. The SC stated that before the bonded labor can be regarded as a bonded laborer, he must not only be forced to provide the labor to the employer, but he must have also received an advance or other economic considerations from the employer. A public interest litigations was brought against the inhuman working conditions in the stone quarries in Bondia Mukti Morcha versus Union of India and others. So this was primarily brought as a various directions given by the apex courts in the 1984 petitions brought by the same appellant had not been implemented by the various state governments. It may be noted that in this case a letter addressed to this court complaining about prevalence of the bonded labor system in Cuttons, Anangpur and Lakarpur areas in Haryana was treated as a writ petitions under Act 32 of the Constitution. The court held that what is the necessary is provision of the permanent base for residence of the laborers at or near the work sites. So this would necessitate reasonable housings, supply of water, reasonable provisions store at hand, schooling facilities, facility of a hospital, recreational facilities and attentions to the law and order problem. The court directed the state of Haryana to attend to the needs of the workmen in a well considered and systematic way and to produce them with the facility mentioned above. Case study number 4, that is the child bonded labor, India's hidden shame, that is the Delhi, the story of Lakshmi rescued by Bachpan Bachao Andolan. What is the fact of the case study? A 13 years old Lakshmi was abducted 4 years ago from her village in northeast India. Until her rescue, she had been working in people's home across West Delhi, in cooking, in cleaning, taking care of children's other household chores. So what is the working condition of the Lakshmi? So frail and frightened Lakshmi describes her nightmare to NGO peoples. She was not allowed to rest. She could not go to the home. For even small mistakes, she was being constantly hit by her employer. She was a victim of verbal abuse as well. She was never allowed to leave the house, so she did not realize that she is in Delhi. Her employer told her that we are in Madras in South India. As the police and counselors questions her, Lakshmi break down. She tell the police that she was sexually assaulted by the men who kidnapped her. She was threatened that if she told anyone about it, they would tell everyone back home in her village and her honor would be destroyed. And then when she started working, the agent who arranged her work withheld all her wages, leaving her with nothing. So what is the government helpless? The government body in charge of children's rights admits they are helpless. Unfortunately, our child labor's prohibitions and Regulation Act is totally outdated, says Kushal Singh, head of the National Commissioner of the Protection of the Child Rights. It says children below the age of 14 cannot be employed in hazardous occupations. Does that mean in non hazardous occupations a 2 years old child can be employed? So, obviously, it is very regressive act. So, this issue has been raised and now an amendment is pending in the parliament. However, it has been pending for a very long time. If the law changes, it will make the fight against the child exploitation a little easier. But that's no relief for families like these. Many here fear that their daughters may be lost forever. So, initiated by Bachpan Bachao Andolan, so it is formed in 1980 by Kailas Satyarthi, who was appeared by the fight of child laborers. The work of BBA takes three strands, being prevention, protections, and rehabilitations. The prevention is encouraged to the community interventions, public awareness campaigning, and efforts to publicize the problems of child labor to the consumers. The BBA child friendly villages programs in Hindi, Bal Mitra Gram, has been accepted as a best practice model for development and elimination of child labor and trafficking. Next one is the protection. Where possible, the Indian legislative provisions are used to restrain and eliminate the practices of child labor and trafficking, and campaigning for tightening and developing the legislations are pursued. The BBA works to recover fines from the employers and traffickers, and also to obtain the monies owed to those who labored has been used. Next one is the rehabilitations. So, BBA tries to ensure that habilitation remains the responsibility of the state. Statutory rehabilitations is one of the key component of legal actions, and this includes a fine of rupees 20,000 on the employer in case of child labor, a further compensations of rupees 20,000 from the government apart from other government social welfare scheme. So, in every 8 minutes a child is affected as a landed bonded labor. So, these are the some news in newspapers, stories. Here, speak out against the child labor on TRAP, the Raj Merge Child Labor Hub. See, the child trafficking continues to be a lucrative trade in capital. 13 minor accused, 4 traffickers arrested. So, what is the conclusion about the bonded laborers? So, bonded labor system, that is the Abolitions Act, was enacted in 1976. So, 20 years later, a Human Rights Watch has found that the goal of this law to punish the employers of the bonded laborers and to identify the release and rehabilitate bonded laborers have not been met. Conclusion number 2, the district labor vigilance committees mandated by the Bonded Labor Systems Act and constituting the keys to the enforcement of the act have not been forced in most districts. Those that have formed tends to lie dormant. Conclusion number 3, whether for lack of will or lack of support, India's district collectors have failed utterly to enforce the provisions of Bonded Labor System Act. The state of Tamil Nadu has an estimated 1 million bonded laborers. So this is the Global Slavery Index 2030. See, this is the population of the different countries. This estimated of population in the modern slaveries, lower range in estimated, and this is the upper range of estimated. See the values and range. So 10 countries with the highest estimated number of populations in modern slaveries. So what exactly the solution? Number 1, mandated rehabilitation of released workers is essential. Without adequate rehabilitations, those who are not released will quickly fall again into the bondage. The central and the state governments have jointly failed to implement the required rehabilitation procedures. Next one, finally, the Bonded Labor System Act directs the Vigilance Committee and district collectors to institute savings and credit programs at the community level so that the impoverished might have access to a small loan during the financial emergencies. The eradications of bonded child labor in India depends on Indian government's commitment of two imperatives: enforcement of bonded labor system and creation of meaningful alternatives for already bonded laborers and those at risk of joining their ranks. So this is the bonded labor fight the crime. Thank you.